Hello there, Reject Nation. I'm Greg Alba.
And I'm John Humphrey.
We're going to talk about Zombieland 2, otherwise known as Zombieland Double Tap. This film unites the original cast members, including the original director, Ruben Fleischer.
And the original writers,
The
Brett
whole
Reese and Paul Wernick.
whole team is assembled again. So in this sequel, they are pretty much camped out at the White House that takes place 10 years later, because this movie came out 10 years later. And I like that there's a time jump here. They're much more of a family now. Abigail Breslin's character, she wants to be on her own, and then she takes off with a pacifist, as they call him in the film.
You know, your average Venice Beach, billowy, outfitted guitar guy.
And then along the way, there's some other stuff that happens that we won't spoil, but they basically have to set out on a road trip to try to find her and save her. Before watching this movie, I was definitely skeptical because of the marketing to this film. It's not like the trailers for this were bad or anything. It's just they marketed it so late. They didn't really seem to even market this movie that much at all. Usually with those kind of signs, it reads as the studio doesn't have faith in the film. I gotta tell you, man, this is some of the most fun I've had at the theaters all year. I had a total blast watching this. It feels like a true sequel to Zombieland. Sometimes with these sequels, especially when you do them so late in the game, the energy doesn't quite feel there, the cast doesn't quite feel there, it just feels like it's retread territory. This movie brought it all. The energy, all the actors brought their A game here. The new players here are great too. Zoe Deutsch, I think is her name. My first big laugh came from her. She is great in this movie. The action is cool. There's some great gore in here. There's some really awesome shots that Ruben Fleischer brought here. There's one standout tracking shot sequence that is highly entertaining, action-packed, funny at the same time.
And that doesn't feel overly stitched together with CGI.
No, it doesn't. And the CGI in the movie, I think, at times it fluctuates between being great and being not so great. But for this kind of movie, you don't really care because of the kind of style there is. They have some great slow-mo moments here, and there's some big CGI moments, but it never pulled me out of the movie. It always added to its charm. It's been a long time since I watched the first Zombieland movie. I personally might have had more fun watching this one than I did the first one.
I mean, I really enjoyed them both, ultimately. One thing I thought of during the movie was it's nice to have a film like this during Halloween. It's like I wish the studio seemed like they had more faith in it, but it's nice to go into something that isn't like a major event. You're just back with your friends, and it has this stride that is so easy to hop back into. It's not necessarily extraordinary, but I did find myself really, really appreciating its charms and the way in which they bothered to update it, because the thing about Zombieland is it was always intended to be a TV show. The more I've become aware of that, the more I can kind of see it in the movies, and so this does feel kind of like a really cool season 2 to Zombieland that happened so many years later. Even though arguably everybody probably would have wanted to do this sooner, I think the 10-year jump actually kind of gives it something nice. It gives it an actual sense of time passage that you can really get, because all these actors have come back. They've all grown up a little bit. It doesn't necessarily reinvent the wheel, but it's just as sharp as ever. It doesn't feel like this was an afterthought for anybody involved with the actual production, you know? For Brett Reese and Paul Wernick, two dudes who are on fire right now in terms of gigs that they're getting, they could have easily zombied their way through this, and I don't think they did, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I love their writing style. With Deadpool, the first Zombieland, what we've seen of the show Wayne, their style just really connects with me personally.
They have a unique type of meta like they bring that kind of, we're talking right to you at times, to this, but in a way that isn't obnoxious, I don't think. And that acknowledges also for this particular movie, the landscape of other zombie movies, which is nice.
And I feel like Ruben Fleischer had a great time directing this movie. You could feel that sense of fun and happy to be back here. The word for these kind of sequels that come out so late, an argument that I'm so sick of having with people is it necessary?
No movie is necessary.
No movie's necessary. I'll say, though, that I like that they just kept it simple. You know, it's not overblown at all. You think after 10 years, like, what do they got? Some crazy idea? But no, this is like
it's Zombieland.
It's close enough to what we might have gotten 8 years ago, actually, if it had come out then. I love what they did with Woody Harrelson's Tallahassee, because he's grown, he's mature, but not so much to the point where they had to steer clear from the character. Like, he's still irreverent, he's still edgy.
He's still Tallahassee.
He's still
all the characters are still very much who they are last time we saw them.
It's still a hard R. It doesn't feel like they've adapted their style to change in case they don't want to offend anyone in the climate we have today, and I love that.
But and what's nice about that is I think that they're smart enough to know that if you just put other characters in the world with other points of view, then you can have more flavors at your disposal. Because I think there is something of a mistake in the idea that we just have to 100% align morally and intellectually with our protagonists or whatever. Like, yeah, Tallahassee's not the wokest guy in the world, but there are other characters around to offer those perspectives. And what I did really appreciate about the overall tone of the movie is that there are a lot of different characters. There are things that are heightened. Obviously, characters like Madison, Zoe Deutsch, and Berkeley, the guy who Abigail Breslin runs off with, like, they're cartoonish, and I was partly expecting the movie to kind of shit on those characters or slag them off. The movie doesn't really ever handle anybody quite that way. Like, it ribs everybody for what they're able to be ribbed for, but it doesn't ever treat anybody with, like, a mean spirit, which is also something that I appreciate about the world they've drawn here, because they easily could, and the zombies are mean. And the zombies here, too, I flashed to Resident Evil because there is, like, a upgraded zombie plot line here as well. Kind of remind me of the first game remake, but I won't spoil too much about that.
If there's one thing in terms of storytelling that I wish they did more with, or at least had it have an impact at least in its finale, there's all this talk about the upgraded zombies, and like there's some great bits that they make out of it. I won't spoil any of it. There's a very specific one that they set up to be kind of gnarly, of an extreme advanced kind of zombie.
I think Crimson Heads from that Resident Evil remake.
They're setting it up, they're building it up, but they don't really do anything with it. That pays it off ultimately.
Because the threat is just, they're better and harder to kill, ultimately. So
yeah, but there's no real things in there that truly have that impact.
It's not a new challenge.
It could have led to a cooler, higher stakes finale. I felt it's such a nitpick that I didn't even. I had to literally go. Was there anything about this I didn't like? I probably would have liked this more. I think Jesse Eisenberg and Emma Stone have wonderful chemistry. Probably more so this time around. I think because of how much their relationship has evolved.
Well, and they have a history, to deal with now.
I do think Zoe Deutsch is a scene stealer here. It blows my mind. When I saw that trailer, I thought she would be probably the most annoying character. Mm-hmm. Like, she just looked like typical. The writing of her isn't great. It's not bad. It's just not anything really exceptional. But Zoe Deutsch, the way she portrays that character makes her a major standout in the film. I really think that the most laughs were consistently generated by her and Woody Harrelson in this film. Yeah. Rosario Dawson.
Oh, she's terrific.
She's awesome in the film. You got these appearances that you see in the trailer by Luke Wilson and Thomas Middleditch. It's more than just some throwaway bit. When I saw the trailer, I thought it looked like a bit that was kind of aped from Shaun of the Dead.
Or they're passing the same group.
It's more than that. Everyone who shows up who's new is great. The only one I didn't really care for, honestly, was the pacifist character. I don't think the actor is bad. I didn't find him funny. I didn't find him intriguing in any capacity. He was just kind of whatever. I just didn't care about him. Yeah, but everyone else I thought was great. Although all the new women were great. This film is woke. Zombieland 2 is woke. Because I said women rock. This is a high recommendation for me. Really impressed with how they handle this movie. I wish Sony marketed this movie a lot more. There's nothing they have to be shy of. If you like the first Zombieland, I can't.
You'll enjoy this. I can't imagine you won't.
I'd be so surprised if you didn't enjoy this. I'm honestly kind of surprised by how much I
enjoyed it. Yeah.
Usually these kind of sequels, especially for comedies this late, are not good, and this is totally the exception to that rule. Yeah. So I highly recommend this, and I think you just have a great time, especially for the month of October. Go check it out.
And I hope that in 10 years we get part 3.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being here. Did you see Zombieland Double Tap? Do you prefer it over the first one? Do you think they should close us out with a trilogy? Who would you like to see join the Zombieland cast? Comment below. You guys can subscribe to The Real Rejects. Click that notification bell. Check us out on the Stardust app. Over there, we do 30-second reaction reviews for any films, TV show, and or trailer. We post daily, sometimes a couple of times in the same day. It's free to download, free to use. You can post your own reactions as well. Tag us. Do it today. Before we wrap this up, I'd like to give a patron of the day shout out to a man named JN Valente. Ooh. JN is one of our top reward tier patrons. Been that way for quite a long time. If there was someone who could survive the zombie apocalypse, JN, I believe it's you. Why? Because of personal experience I've had with you. So long, you'll vanish, and I'll think that you probably passed away, but good thing you kept your card on file. even while you're in the afterlife. And then you'll emerge. You'll come back. You'll talk a lot to me. You have that way about you where you think, oh, maybe the apocalypse got to him. But then no, you emerge. You're still alive?
You're resourceful, Jan.
That's how I feel every time I talk to you.
You know how to move around. You know how to get from place to place undetected. And you can take care of yourself. And that's what you need in the apocalypse, man. The ability to spin a very rambling yarn of, epic proportions. Because if there's anything zombies love...
Kind of like what John does. What are you doing? Keep going.
You busted my flow up. You can't bust brilliance up,
Bust your flow. You interrupt me all the time. Come on, man. Go.
I know. I'm on the spot now because JN, I'm thinking about your face.
John. We're done. You failed.